Welcome into the Draftaholics, where every day is draft day. Welcome back, Draftaholics. How are you? It's episode 5. We got the whole crew here. We are just days away from the NFL season. Preseason week 4 upon us. It's Draftaholics' favorite time of the year. Guys, how you doing today?
You know, I'm feeling really good. We just had our big draft in our league of note.
That's right.
Yesterday. I want to thank Matt for holding it down as our commissioner. Another excellent draft, and I'm really looking forward to this year. Shout out to all you commissioners out there who keep your leagues in order, shuffle everyone's schedules to get the draft done, kick people out when they need to be kicked out.
That's
and,
right.
Make fantasy
Hopefully
football
it never
fun.
has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, somebody's got to do it.
I think my gamesmanship was on point, wasn't it?
It was good.
I
George
only-
was trying to serve people beer early on in the
He
hour.
I poisoned
Yeah.
only 2 people, and that was fine.
Yeah.
He had a new wrinkle this year. We were lucky enough to travel with a bunch of league mates to the beach, and I hope you and your friends had such an opportunity or get such an opportunity in the future to go to a destination, draft together. It was such a great time. But what George was doing this year, he was suggesting really physical games all day long. Beach games. We're playing spike ball. We're playing wiffle ball. And he wants to play more rounds and more rounds. And finally, I had to tap out. I held my hands up. I was like, I'm done. I have to research at least a little bit more.
You can't see behind this desk, but I'm in exceptionally good health, and these guys aren't.
That's what it is. Yeah. If there's anyone who puts in extra effort in games,
It's
this
me.
guy right here. So
Yeah.
physical effort. It's
We've
this
got a
guy.
few in our league who just love games in general. But George, it was
I
out.
put the X in extra.
And speaking of which, this is George Slotin.
Hey, what's up,
right?
everybody? Jokester extraordinaire.
Yeah, that's right.
You can say it.
I can say at a lot of times too.
At.
George Slotin. And across from me, William. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. At W Spinato on Twitter. 2 N's, 1 T.
And not his full name in the front.
Hey.
So there is one W, George.
There's 1W.
So, guys, that's enough about our home draft. I'm sure you care all about our fantasy teams. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to break that down at a later date. But right now, I want to ask you a quick question of the day. I want to talk surprise teams, surprise NFL teams. Who is going to surprise us at the end of the season? What is their record going to look like, either better or worse than what's really expected by the consensus, by the crowds out there? Brilliant.
You know, the last little part of the question kind of threw me a little bit in terms of win record, but you guys are going to hate my pick. It's a homer pick. I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens. I think a lot of people... I know. See, exactly. I told Matt right before we recorded this that he was going to hate my pick.
This is a great question.
But I do have to say, not a lot of people, especially in the fantasy community, are talking about the complete overhaul in terms of pass catchers in Baltimore. I think they're going to look completely different than they've been the last few years with a stud like Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, who you've said Matt has repeated several times. I keep bringing him up, but people forget he's there. I mean, he was a great option for Drew Brees in New Orleans, and now he's available for Joe Flacco. And don't forget, Smokey John Brown. Man,
Yeah.
I think he's the perfect pairing for the deep ball of Joe Flacco.
If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's had the sickle cell problems. Hopefully, they're behind him. And
Baltimore's a great
the
place.
limit for that receiving core compared to last year,
Yeah,
where
totally.
I felt like Danny Woodhead truly was the best receiver on the team.
Right. It's just completely different than last year, and I think people are not really paying enough attention to that.
I hear you.
I'm also going to go homer, but I'm going to do it the other way around. I don't think the Falcons are going to live up to expectations.
Huh.
I'm saying this in hopes that I can look at this tape in 5 or 6 months and say I was wrong. What Steve Sarkisian did to the Falcons, extremely efficient offensive outpouring in 2016 to 2017, with all the great players in play, including Julio Jones, Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, I mean, you name him, Mohamed Sanu. To have that such big a drop in offensive efficiency scares the crap out of me.
It could just keep going.
And I really don't see. I mean, obviously, I as a Falcons fan, I hope for the best, but man, they just had some really rough games throughout the entire year. I thought they would turn it around. I don't see them reaching 10 wins again this year. The NFC South is exceptional. Playing twice against the Bucs and the Saints and everyone else. I mean, they're no cakewalk games anymore in the South.
Yeah, it absolutely isn't. It used to be that division we just targeted hands down because all the dome games, all the shootouts, and now it's just not that way at all. Yeah, I'm going to say it's the New York Jets. And this has as much to do with their team and their players as much to do with their opponents. So they get to play, obviously, the Patriots twice, but it's also those Bills and Dolphins games I'm looking at as games that they can really take advantage of this year. The Bills and the Dolphins are in the throes of a rebuild. I think they're going to struggle a lot. I think they're going to see some roster turnover as they work to see what they have from their young personnel. And the Jets later in the season could be a team that takes huge advantage of it and it actually sneaks into the playoffs. I really like their offensive coordinator hire. I really like the pieces that they've brought in. I still like Elijah McGuire when he recovers, hopefully fully, from that foot injury. And a lot of people forget 4 800-yard receivers in Curse, in Pryor, as well as Anderson and Anunwa, who should be coming back fully healthy. They have 3 competent quarterbacks, now 2 we're just hearing. This just came across our phones, our airwaves, right before we were recording, that Teddy Bridgewater has been traded, but that must speak to the fact that Sam Darnold has been named the starter. Mm-hmm. He's ready to go, folks, in the Big Apple, and even if something were to happen, hopefully it does not, Josh McCown is essentially a player coach who that they could throw onto the field if needed. I think this is a team that could win 8-9 games, surprise a lot of people.
I think they sent away Teddy Bridgewater because of the incredible hair of McCown and Darnold. I don't know if any of y'all saw that GIF out there, but
a glitch in
the locks of golden opulence that came from those two guys, you don't need anyone else.
Unbelievable sunset shades of red.
Yeah,
in that glitch,
gorgeous.
Amazing.
In the hair department, they're gonna go 11-6.
Well, didn't I just talk about Robbie Anderson's hair 2 weeks ago? Compared him to Beckham and being able to get
T.Y. Hilton's hair.
T.Y.
So the hair game is really why I choose most of my fantasy football and NFL picks.
Yep.
You're going to get all this great analysis and more coming right up. Welcome back to the Draftaholics pod. We are doing the big kahuna, the big draft best ball tournament. $25 entry. Oh man, shout out to Draft for some of the coolest tournaments I have seen in my time playing fantasy football. Mm-hmm. Really awesome stuff. A free shout out to them. And guys, if you want to check out our entire draft board, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at DraftaholicsPod. We're going to be running through our team really quickly for you listeners out there. We got the 12th pick, and our consensus was to buy the hype on Christian McCaffrey.
Let's take it.
He was the 10th of 10 running backs taken in the first round in that last pick. And of course, we follow it up with DeAndre Hopkins, a consensus top 2 wide receiver. Basically, the only pony show in town. Shout out to Will Fuller there in Houston. Guys, we then had an Adam Thielen and Larry Fitzgerald 3rd and 4th round. I said in a previous episode how much I love these receivers. We got 2 of them. My eyes lit up when I saw them both there. It was great. And then we got Jamal Williams, the running back who coach of the Green Bay Packers just said is poised for a big year. We'll take it. And then we locked up those rushing yards in Carolina by taking Mr. Cam Newton himself. We're hoping that Norv Turner keeps the ball on the ground a lot there in Carolina, and they have some success with it. And I think that Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton is a rare stack in a tournament that, if it breaks right, we could see ourselves go a long way. We then do something really unorthodox as well by taking 2 Green Bay running backs after Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones, the suspended man. He's going to be back week 3. We took him at the 7-12. We actually took Trey Burton at 8-1, but then at 9-12, it was Ty Montgomery. We have never really done a stack with 3 of the same position. Yes, there's the argument that you take up 1 spot on your team with 3 draft slots, but I think there's some extra special upside there. We finished out with Jordy Nelson, Nick Chubb, Matt Breida, Cortland Sutton, and Case Keenum.
Another stack?
Oh, yep. You see that Denver stack there. We've talked about the chorizo burrito before, but Nick Chubb is one we're going to get into later on. And Jordy Nelson, I don't think he's lost everything yet. So, Ricky Seals-Jones, Frank Gore, 3rd stack, Sam Bradford of the Cardinals. And we finish up with Traquan Smith, the flashy rookie out of New Orleans.
He's looked really good in the preseason.
He's looked really, really good. Drew Brees. Yeah, that's going to live with me for a while.
Sure will, Matty.
Forever.
Yeah, he's throwing the ball. Cameron Meredith has not received a target.
That hype is fizzling away.
Now, this is one of those situations where we might just be looking at the small sample of the preseason and buying way too much into it. We've been waiting for the preseason to start. Yeah. We've been waiting for football to come back, and maybe we're just looking at 48 snaps way too intently and intensely. But I do think there's some upside with Traquan. Guys, let's do it. Let's deep dive. Let's go to statistics, heuristics, and logistics. Yep, it's our favorite.
It's the istics.
So we called it out a couple times here. We are stacking much more than we would even in a normal best ball league because of the tournament nature. We're treating it a little bit like a GPP in a FanDuel or a DraftKings or any other DFS service. But look at the teams that we're stacking. These are not necessarily the first teams that you think of when you think of shootout, when you think of big game, especially in 2018. I'll start with the Cardinals. Now, they are last in projected wins, tied with the Browns. And one bookmaker was recently quoted saying that the public loves the Browns. They're all over them. So they are a low bet on, low win total team. Quarterback change is always going to do that to you. But I say that the quarterback change might be great. It might just be 1-to-1. Sam Bradford is a player that has broken the NFL record for completion percentage in a season before Drew Brees broke it this year. And when do you get high percentage throws completed? You know when. It's short passes.
Yeah.
It's short passes over the middle. It's swing passes. It's dump offs. And who gets that? Yes, David Johnson. But it's Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
It's the tight end. And that's why we chose Sam Bradford as one of our final picks. I really like the stack. It's going to be a rare stack, a low ownership stack, and that's how we got to think at this time in the tournament right now. The Broncos are our other team that I really like our stack. We had two others that we'll go into later on in the show. The Broncos are another team where the AFC West is in limbo. The Chargers are editorially considered one of the most prolific offenses, and on paper there are a lot of stats to back that up. The Broncos are one of these teams that may fall by the wayside in terms of people remembering their talent. They're just a few years removed from that Super Bowl winning defense. They have an offense who is offensive leader who is competent in Case Keenum. They have a new addition in Cortland Sutton, and the highest correlations from fantasy player to fantasy player exist between the quarterback and his wide receiver. It's 34, 39, and 35% of a wide receiver's 1, 2, or 3 can be decided basically by the quarterback play. So again, it's that add-on we have from Case Keenum and the upside of Cortland Sutton that we can really hope that breaks just right so we win our game. How about heuristics?
We took a really interesting approach here in our running backs. You know, we were kind of talking about as we were drafting that in a best ball and a tournament specifically, you need to assume the health of your first 5 picks. So we went with Christian McCaffrey. We're assuming that he is going to be in great shape in our RB1 for the entire season. The next running back that we pick up is Jamal Williams. Immediately, we were talking about nabbing the entire Draftaholics coined Jee-Bee-Pee-Are-Bee-Bee-See. That's the Green Bay Packers running back by committee. As a whole, they were extremely efficient last year. You can compare their numbers as a whole to Le'Veon Bell. I found this interesting stat. Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, and Ty Montgomery had 362 total touches for 1,734 yards and 14 touchdowns. Bell, 406 touches, that's more, 1,946 total yards, and 11 touchdowns. Comparable in terms of efficiency. Let me remind you of something that didn't happen in 2016 or 2017. Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
If you look back at the previous 2 years and the Green Bay's approach at running back by committee, they totaled for even more total touches, 1,834 in 2016, 2,231 in 2015. That was Lacey, Starks, and Montgomery for a short amount of time. What I'm saying is the combination of these 3 running backs could end up with a hyper-efficient RB1 type performance as a whole. So in a best ball tournament like this, we can take several mid-round picks and end up elevating our team with another running back 1 score consistently throughout.
Point scoring entity.
Exactly.
Yes.
So as a whole, we kind of switched up our strategy a little bit, and we immediately started talking, once we talked Jamal Williams, about locking up this entire committee. Don't always look for this approach in redraft. I've been a DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry owner, and it's extremely frustrating. But in a best ball tournament like this, it could end up with a lot of upside.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So this tournament that we just put $25 in is a little bit different than all the other $1 best balls we've done in the fact that weeks 13 through 16 are in a tournament style. So while it is best ball format for the entire season, we also need to take into account the strength of schedule for those playoff weeks, if you will. But how do you get to the playoffs? You have to do well in the regular season. So some of those stacks that Matt and William were so eloquently talking about before, we tried to sparse them out based on some teams that would have an easier strength of schedule for the first quarter of the year, the second quarter, the third quarter, and then the playoff quarter. So the Broncos for weeks 1 through 4 have the 10th easiest strength of schedule based on Warren Sharp. If you continue with the Broncos in weeks 12 through 16, they have the 6th easiest schedule, and sandwiched in between those two are the Cardinals with the 3rd easiest schedule from weeks 5 through 11. So you're going to see some ebb and flows of some fantasy points that go between the different stacks as well as our other non-stack players. Also, in terms of scheduling, I think our running backs sort of were drafted in a schedule format. Let me put it this way. Ty Montgomery and Christian McCaffrey are sort of, I call them our all-year running backs. After that, I think our running backs fall, our other 5 running backs fall in a category of who will really stand out for the first week 1 through week 16. I see Frank Gore. He's obviously extremely old. If he's gonna produce anything, it's gonna be, I think, early in the season before he really breaks down. I know he hasn't broken down yet, but the odds are at some point
it's
he
hard
will.
not to draw similarities to Arian Foster.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
If he's gonna produce first, it'll be in those. I hope it'll be in that first quarter of the season. Jamal Williams certainly has the cowbell for the first 2 weeks. Whether Aaron Jones fights him for that RB1 position in Green Bay is yet to be seen. So I see Jamal and Frank Gore playing us, giving us some points in the first couple weeks of the season. After that, Aaron Jones, I think, kicks in. Matt Breida, I think, also kicks in around that same time. I think him under the Kyle Shanahan offense, that Tevin Coleman role, we'll start to see him shine in the middle of the season. And I think Nick Chubb has a chance to take over in Cleveland towards the third and fourth half.
I love the
third and
balance
fourth
there.
quarter
Those
of
are
the season.
both players who are going to get more than 0 carries the first week they're on the field. And they are players who, if the person in front of them were to go down, could be the workhorse of their team. Those are players that are, as far as we know, liked by their coaches so much that if it were to be a circumstance where they needed the ball 25 touches a game, the coach wouldn't hesitate to give them the ball 25 touches a game.
Sure.
That's what we call upside.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like how we broke that down. I think there's a lot of unorthodox upside, some asymmetrical upside.
That's what you need.
We're going to get into all of our loves, hates. We're going to defend our picks, and we're going to say who sniped us. It's a very interesting opponent who sniped us this time, right when we come back. Check it out. Hey, folks, it's that final rundown we got. Oh, the dribble, the crossover. Oh, he shoots.
Oh, he almost made it.
He almost made it. He's the Draftaholics quick shots. Folks,
Quick shots.
we talked about it a little bit in logistics, heuristics, and statistics. Oh, I just mixed it all up there.
I love it.
But we know what they all are. This is the construction corner. We focused on it so much in this tournament-style play. I want to go back to one thing you said during the heuristics section that really caught my eye, and it was something we were talking about during the draft, and that's this assumption of health early on in the draft. I think in a redraft format, when you have a waiver wire or a fab budget, you want to draft as if the top player at every position is going to go down or miss some time at some point. You want to ensure yourself as much as you can in as many position slots as you can throughout the season. In a tournament, in a best ball, that is not how we think. And so, especially in a format like this, we just have to assume that McCaffrey, that Hopkins, that Thielen, that Fitzgerald, and even Williams and Cam Newton are going to hit that expected point total and maybe even exceed that, get towards the end of their expected point total, their ceiling. So with McCaffrey and Newton, we have this correlation theoretically, but the correlation between a QB1 and an RB1 is actually 0. It's really random between those two. They're just really highly rated on our board. Same with Fitzgerald and Thielen. I can't tell the difference when I really project them based on the quality of opportunities I project for Thielen and the volume of opportunities I suspect that Fitzgerald will continue to receive. So the fact that we take both and we assume the best out of both is something that we need to do in this type of format. Basically, from Aaron Jones on, guys, it's a crapshoot, and somebody's going to have 2 or 3 of them that really, really pop, and it's probably going to win this group of 12 and move on to the big tournament at the end. But I really think that the 5, or really 6, because we have that 5-12, 6-1 turn, including Cam Newton, that's our core. And that core has the upside to win the entire thing. That's really what we want. That's really all we can do. George, does the way that we play change because not only it's a tournament, but the money, it's increased a little bit this time?
Yeah. So in most tournaments, the top four, the 4 out of 12 make money in each best ball, especially in the $1, $3, $5, $10 ones. In this tournament, like you said, it's the top of the 12 move on to the playoff contention, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we really want to strike those boom busts, and obviously the boom part of the boom bust.
Yeah.
And I think that's why half of our team consists of stacks and the Jee-Bee-Pee-Are-Bee-Bee-See. And that's what we're going to be living or dying on, are these stacks. And they're abnormal stacks, like you were just talking about, Cam and Christian McCaffrey. Not a normal stack that people would think of. You'd probably think of Cam and Devin Funchess, or Cam and Greg Olson. We have Sam Bradford and not Larry, although we do have Larry. We also have Ricky Seals-Jones as a stack option, and
Right.
Case Keenum and Cortland Sutton. Some people will be fighting for the Case Demarius, the Case Emmanuel Sanders, but we're doing the Case Cortland. If one, and hopefully two, or even all of those three pop, I certainly see us moving forward in the playoff rounds of this tournament. But when we're going for the big bucks, you need to chase those really high upside plays. And in regard to the Green Bay Packer running back by committee that we've been speaking of, you mentioned earlier about how we're really getting a Le'Veon-esque production out of all three, which we hope for. You're not going to get that in the 5th, 7th, and 9th round alone with people like Tevin Coleman or James White or Peyton Barber, running backs that were going in those rounds.
You're going to get one lottery pick, and even if you pick multiple, one's not going to work out.
Right.
The odds that you get all working out.
Exactly.
Zero.
And because it's a best ball play, you don't have to choose that one for a roster slot. You get to play all of them. And because of that, we're essentially getting another RB1 out of our 5th, 7th, and 9th round picks. I'm certainly down to do that over getting those 3 random RB2 threes that may pop here and there. Instead, we're sort of guaranteed it for the whole season, and I'm really happy about that. And I think that those are the type of plays you have to do in order to put yourself in the bucks, in the big money.
Yeah, totally. And in terms of like draft strategy and ADP as we were doing this draft, because we were drafting from the 12 slot and having to take 2 players at a turn, in order to complete these stacks, sometimes we had to throw ADP a little aside.
Yeah,
like
completely.
when we
Our
went for
rankings
Case.
don't exactly show what our team was.
Exactly. When we went for Case, there was still Trubisky, Bortles, and Dalton available, who we've been wanting to take in the past, but we had to grab Case so that we could complete that upside possibility to come out number 1 in this money tournament.
And truthfully, he may have been there at 15,
Sure.
12. The odds were not good enough to wait.
Exactly.
We wanted to stack more than we wanted to play the value game right there. Of course, we're into winning the value game. Don't get me wrong. But in that moment, it made sense to get the correlation, to get the upside, and hopefully we get some sort of magical Week 16 where the Panthers running game and the Green Bay running game and Cortland Sutton and Case Keenum have a magical day, and maybe Sam Bradford throws a tight end touchdown or 2. That's the kind of week that's going to win this tournament. And for us, that's the perfect play. That's bingo. That's Yahtzee. It could happen.
See you in Hawaii.
Oh, now it's time for the favorite pick. This is still the best one for me, guys. My favorite quick shot is the favorite pick. What can I say? So, the Carolina boy had a really fun first few rounds. We got 2 Panthers in the first 6 picks, but I think it was that second one, that 6th round pick, Mr. Bojangles himself.
Mr. Bojangles, Cam Newton. And don't be afraid that we drafted Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton. Listen to before this pick, before what we just said, or after, and we'll tell you why. It could have already happened, so maybe you do know why. But anyway, big fan of Cam Newton this year. He finishes the number 1 quarterback overall in 2015 in fantasy points per game, number 2 in 2016, yet he's being drafted around the quarterback 4, 5, 6. Why the drop? They got DJ Moore, they got Devin Funchess, they got Christian McCaffrey, they got a healthy Greg Olson. What's the deal? What's the what? Last year, during weeks, and also Cam Newton had 754 rushing yards last year. Give me that upside. Between weeks 7 and 16, the Panthers averaged 160 rushing yards per game and 12 touchdowns in those 9 weeks. That's going to go to either one of 2 players more than likely, Christian McCaffrey or Cam Newton. That's why we took both of them. The Norv Turner offense is going to be high-flying, flying, belyin'. They're averaging, Cam Newton averages 22 touchdowns a year. That's exceptional numbers. Give me him, give me him, give me him.
My favorite pick was in the 11th round. It was Nick Chubb all the way. Folks, what is going on with his ADP? I really just don't understand it at this point. I know that there are people in line in front of him. Carlos Hyde has looked really good this preseason. Duke Johnson was signed. He's going to catch passes. But folks, this is a player who had the talent and the ability to be drafted early in the second round. And people like Rashad Penny, drafted just 8 picks in front of him, are going 6 rounds ahead of him in fantasy drafts. That's a huge incongruency. And you know what? There was another incongruency about third-round rookie running backs last year, where Kareem Hunt had a phenomenal situation after the Spencer Ware injury in the preseason, and Alvin Kamara was sitting there third in line, pushing his ADP further and further down. Well, guess what? We know how that turned out. Both of them ended up working out phenomenally well.
Right.
It could be that neither of them work out this year. That's the way football goes sometimes. But this is a Kamara-like bet. This is a Kamara-like player in the way that he could take over a game if asked. And the bet in ADP is just the same. My favorite pick by far.
I love it. My favorite pick came several rounds later. It was our last running back. The young, the sprightly Mr. Frank Gore. You know how we talk about the breakout age? You know that age is 35 years old.
For being so sprightly, I don't know why he likes Diet Coke.
Yeah. You know, Frank Gore is a possible future Hall of Famer. He's had a lifetime carry number of 3,226. And in 2017, he actually averaged more points per game in a standard league than Kenyon Drake. Yes, Kenyon Drake came on hot towards the end of the year, but the Dolphins didn't fully buy into it. They went out and got a veteran, and they're going to use him. Just like they used Ajayi before they got rid of him last year, he's going to get work. The truth is, we really don't know who the lead back is in Miami. It might not be the most prolific offense, but Frank Gore, there's no reason to believe he's not in line for what could be a 200 carry season. I'll take that in the 16th round any day. It'll help solidify the end of our draft where we didn't get a ton of running backs because we got 3 from Green Bay. You can't exactly count on that kind of depth per se. So I really like the pick in the 16th round.
Touches are touches are touches. Mm-hmm. That's right. Love it. All right, let's move into defend your pick. Folks, we had some really interesting picks that, as we talked about earlier in this podcast, kind of went against our rankings. One of them that I really enjoyed, Ricky Seals-Jones. Yeah, he does have a name that sounds like a zoo animal. That's right.
He sure does.
He also is seeing a ton of preseason route running, which is what we love. George, can you defend this Ricky Seals-Jones second tight end?
Well, he has a better 40-yard dash than I do at 4.69. I don't think I'm even 9.64, okay? Ricky Seals-Jones is fast, guys. He's 6'5", standing tall, and he's 243 pounds. I mean, he's a man's man. He's going around the tight end 23, which means he's essentially a flyer in almost every single, unless you're in a 2 tight end league. God bless you. I don't know why you're in it to begin with. There's a man in Arizona that goes by the name of Mike McCoy, and he is a tight end whisperer. He's led some incredible tight ends to some successful careers, including Julius Thomas, and most importantly, Antonio Gates, and the beginning of Hunter Henry's career. I don't know if Ricky Seals-Jones is the next Antonio Gates, but I certainly like where he's starting from. He was the number 1 tight end in fantasy points per opportunity last year, and he had 7.2 yards per target. They're not many options in Arizona to throw the ball to. You've got David Johnson, you've got Larry Fitzgerald. Sure, you've got Christian Kirk and some other rookies and some other, flyers. And yeah, absolutely. They're not the ball has to go somewhere in the air. And so I'm going to put my eggs in Ricky Seals-Jones' basket, especially in the 15th, 16th round. He's an exceptional flyer. I'm totally down to take him. Defense rests.
Yeah. And right around that time, we also finished up our previous stack, another one we mentioned earlier, Case Keenum.
I'm going to make the case for Case right now.
The case for Case.
The thing I like about Case the most is I feel like Denver, as an offense, has the tools to be a productive fantasy offense. Not since they've had Peyton Manning, have they had that piece of the puzzle for consistent fantasy scoring. They've got the 2 elite wide receivers, and they... Not to mention the addition of Courtland Sutton, who we took around before for our possible stack. But you've got to follow the money a little bit. They spent $36 million to bring in Case Keenum, who, with Minnesota, played 15 games and went 12-3. He is a game winner. He can control the game, and he can find the open receivers. If the receivers that you go to work with are Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, I feel like that's just one element missing in the puzzle for a possibly dominant fantasy offense. We haven't seen it in a long time. The numbers, I mean, I was looking back on FF today, trying to find some proof here, and it is hard because Peyton Manning even struggled. He was an excellent quarterback, but this to me feels like a situation where it's that puzzle piece that falls right into place, and the tools are there to turn into efficiency.
Did you struggle as much as I did trying to find anything positive on Tyrell Williams?
It's very similar, yes. I think it was when you were trying to look up positive stats on Tyrell.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
It's just, in a situation like this where they have struggled on offense, it is hard to find those numbers to back it up. This is one of those feeling things where it feels like Case is kind of falling right into a good situation.
Yeah, where the talent around him matches that's the component.
The efficiency, the offensive plan.
First day of free agency, and
they spent the money, exactly.
Well, speaking of free agency in the first few days of it, Jordy Nelson was sought after quickly after being let go by the Green Bay Packers, and they actually made room for him by letting go of Michael Crabtree. I really think that Jordy Nelson is not done yet. That's really what it comes down to. Of course, if we run his career numbers through any sort of prediction machine, we would see that his numbers look great. We also know that they're elevated by the phenomenal quarterback play of Aaron Rodgers. We cannot separate the two. Those numbers will forever be linked. AirYards.com has a game speed app that shows us that Jordy Nelson, the narrative is that he's lost a step. The data says otherwise, is that he is above average for his position when you look at the number of distance traveled and the max speed at that distance traveled. That was very awakening to me. That means even at his advanced age, he still has advanced speed. We also have to remember that Crabtree dominated red zone and end zone targets. We're talking top 5 in the entire NFL during this time.
Yeah.
And what was Jordy Nelson known for in Green Bay? Catching the ball in the end zone and falling down.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. I really think that he could just replace 1-to-1 that number 3 in end zone targets. And by the way, he was number 10 in red zone receptions last season, but just happened to be number 51 in end zone target share. So it might have been that situation where a lot of these balls were very close to the end zone, but not quite in there for that 6-point fantasy bonus. That's why I love Jordy Nelson. That's why I'll defend him until his retirement day.
Boys, I remember a very dark time in this $25 contest. It was around 7 to 8, that turn. We decided we were going to lock up the Jee-Bee-Pee-Are-Bee-Bee-See. We took Aaron Jones. We were looking into another running back. We were deciding we wanted Peyton Barber, some maybe guaranteed, possibly the running back in Tampa Bay.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we hear the draft app vibrating and blink, 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 and we got sniped by the clock. George, I want to know what you were thinking.
Sniped by the clock.
I want to know what you were thinking at that moment.
I was thinking, can I get my money back?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking.
No.
I was thinking, I don't want Trey Burton. The Philly special. I'm Matt Nagy. I get it. But I was really hoping to get that shot in the dark that wins the league. Is when you pick the RB1 of a team that we really don't know the RB1 at this time. Peyton Barber may break for an RB2 year, and we could have had him, but I'm not so unhappy with Trey Burton.
Yeah, to be honest, he is a tight end that I'm targeting.
Yeah.
There are much worse options that we could have gotten.
Matt,
there.
give us some numbers to tell us why we like him.
Okay, I really like the fact that Matt Nagy has already said that he has the Travis Kelce role.
Right.
We often do this congruency. Oh, a coordinator is moving to a head coach or a coordinator role.
Right,
We're
we
gonna
guess.
just
Yeah.
apply it to that personnel. But when the coach says so, I'm inclined to listen. And one of the things I really look for when I see what tight end breakouts could occur that year is what route participation can we project. And boy, oh boy, there was a big 4 last year. And of course, it includes Travis Kelce. So if you add Burton to that list, this is the over 90% route participation club list. It sounds pretty good. Listen to this. Travis Kelce, Jason Witten, Jack Doyle, Rob Gronkowski. No other tight end in 2017 ran even 80% of their team's pass plays. They ran routes on them. Those 4 did over 90. If we add Trey Burton to that list, there's a possibility he could have the tight end of the. He could be the tight end of the season.
Oh,
he could really break out.
I'm getting excited.
We got
all of a
excited.
sudden.
I just mean a top 5.
I want back in on
participation
this
rate.
draft.
It could work.
We got him as the eighth tight end off the board, so I really like the possibility of him being an elite option. And yes, maybe it's not like that lottery ticket winning. Yes, we did get sniped by the clock, but I've got to say I'm happy with the pick. I like some Trey.
Are you so if you get 90% of the passing option routes run, do you automatically get like an ESPN contract to start talking about it?
I
Should we expect all 5 to be working at ESPN in the next 10 years?
Right. They will all be announcers within the next half decade. We are justifying Trey Burton really well. I actually think Matt Nagy's going to find a way. And guys, small sample size alert, but that second preseason game when Adam Shaheen got hurt, it was like a switch flipped on, and every ball started to go to Trey Burton.
Right.
He was wide open.
It was almost as if they had to switch to their actual plan for the regular season, and you saw how they were going to lean on.
They like switched the Gronk.
Maybe it's it's gonna
awesome.
be so cold in Chicago. They may call it the chili special.
Oh my goodness, I'll see it. I want to believe it. I want to believe it. Oh man, yeah, getting sniped by the clock, never fun. But I think we've justified the Trey Burton pick really well. Yeah. I feel a lot better about it already. Folks, we are finally getting there. Just a few days left before the regular season. Whew. Hopefully you've got some great ideas on how to attack the best ball tournaments that Draft or other companies are now offering. Of course, feel free to fade us if you think we're dumb.
Yeah, fade us.
Guys, it's been a real blast getting over the best ball hump and getting really into it this year. We're going to show you our top exposures right before the season starts next week. Remember, you're only as good as your last pick. I'm Matt at Draftaholic. To my right, George.
At George Slotin. Follow if you dare.
I'm William Spinato at W Spinato on Twitter. 2 N's, 1 T.
And there is 1 W. Folks,
happy drafting.
Have a great week. We'll see you when the season starts.
See you soon, guys.
Thanks for watching the Draftaholics, where you're only as good as your last pick.